Unless you've been living beneath one, I'm sure you're aware of the popularity of painting on rocks. It's a trend that began back in the Stone Age and continues on today. Another ancient tradition that is still very much alive today is the tying of complex decorative knots. Our macrame knots may have originated in China or an Arabic nation hundreds of years ago. Besides being used as decoration, knots have been associated with sailing, mathematics, and for recording data. And did you know that there is an international guild of knot tiers dedicated to preserving and passing on the history of knots? There really is. So today we're going to combine these two ancient art forms and decorate a rock using fibers. You don't have to go too far to find examples of wrapped rocks online. Using basket reed, leather, wire, they're beautiful. But what I'd like to demonstrate today is an easy way to get started knotting rocks. So easy it can be done with children. A simple button is a great tool to be able to hold some string in place as warp and keep them spaced apart so that they can be wrapped or woven. The button also becomes part of the design. So you'll need a button that either has 4 holes or one that has 2 holes. Now Blick has some large, colorful button assortments for kids' craft that are just perfect for this project, but everybody knows where to find a button. Next, you're going to need a piece of string that's going to fit through the holes. Now, it doesn't really matter what type of string you use, but today I'm going to demonstrate using a piece of waxed polycord. I like this because it has a little stretch to it and the wax helps to make it very strong. You can also use a lighter or a candle flame or a match and melt the wax ends together to make a very tidy, neat way to finish off your design. I can't tell you exactly what length you'll need because I don't know what size rock you'll be working on, but you need to have it long enough that it would wrap around your rock in one direction and then also in the opposite direction and give you enough string to tie off. So first, pick your button. I think I'll use this nice lime green one and thread your string through opposite holes of the button. Adjust it so it's about the same length. Next, position your button on the rock and pull it around as tightly as possible. Now you're going to go in the opposite direction, and you can either go through the holes again with this piece, or if you've got a 2-hole button, you might just wrap it around the button like so, and then tie it off. Now, you may have noticed because I have the rounded edges of the rock, it was a little uncomfortable trying to hold on to the strings and wrap the rock. So while you're doing that part, it's sometimes easier to take a little bit of masking tape and hold it on the ends like so, maybe even across the bottom. This can be removed later, but at least it will hold them in place until you can get going. Now, have you ever made a God's eye? Originally from Mexico, this is a good example of a knotting technique with a spiritual purpose, representing an all-seeing, watchful eye. Traditionally, a God's eye is made by wrapping colorful yarn around sticks. We're going to use a similar technique using the 4 strings that are now held in place by the button. Again, you can use many types of string. You could use yarn, you could use some raffia, you could use some jute twine perhaps, pretty much anything that you would have on hand. But I'm going to demonstrate today using a hemp cord. Hemp comes in a lot of beautiful colors and it's very sturdy. Also, it resists fraying, so I do like that about it. So I'm going to tie it onto the rock simply by looping it beneath the button and giving it a nice knot like so. Next, I'm going to take the other end and push it under one of the strings. It doesn't matter which one you start out on. So I'm just going to start on this one right here. Next, I will loop it back around and wrap that same string and push it through again. Now, it's a little difficult sometimes to get it under that string, so especially as you continue wrapping, it will get tighter. So I would have on hand a tool, such as a wooden tool that I would have here, a clay tool, perhaps a toothpick, and that helps to be able to push it underneath the string. Now, the easiest way, I think, is to use a needle. And I happen to have a blunt plastic needle. Has a nice large eye that makes it easy to thread, and it's totally safe, not sharp at all. And as you see, it glides underneath the strings pretty quickly and easily. So you can see it's starting to build up, and it's kind of important to remember to always repeat the same stitch, bringing the needle, like in this case, I'm bringing it to the right of my first stitch. And as I wrap around to the next one, I bring it to the right again. You don't want to mix back and forth between going to the left and to the right. Okay, so as you can see, I'm building this up and would continue doing that until I've got a little bit more on there. But let's move on, and I want to show you one that I've already finished the cord, and now I either want to change colors or just tie this piece off and be done with it and call my rock finished. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath that cord one more time, but at this point I'm going to bring my needle back through the loop and pull it tight, and that makes a knot. I'm going to cut it off now, but here I'd leave just a little bit of a tail, a little bit of an edge. Again, we can take a tool, a wooden tool, a toothpick, and just push it underneath the other threads so that it's hidden. And if you wanted to, you could put a little drop of glue on that. It would glue itself to the other cords and it wouldn't be visible at all, and it would stay in place more securely. Next, say I wanted to change colors. I would start in the same manner by tying on, I'm going to use a piece of hemp cord. Let's go back with my plastic needle. We'd start by going underneath, and at the end, once again, I will tie this off and leave a little tail, push the tail underneath. Now I'll continue creating the same pattern over and over again. Let's look at some finished pieces, shall we? Okay, if we come over here, I've got an example of one that would be very similar to what I just did with a large button on the top and the God's Eye pattern. Here's another one that would be similar as well. Now, you don't necessarily need to use a button. You could also use a bead, such as in this example right here. If you try it and like it without a button, the button's not necessary. We have some examples that are woven in between the warp as well. We have some that add fringe and crocheted pieces as well. You can see just starting off with this one simple technique will just take you into a great imaginative, creative craft of knotting rocks. But what do you do with a knotted rock? Well, they make great groupings, community and collaborative projects. I've seen them hung with string as kind of a wind chime. You can make them into jewelry, a worry stone, or as many artists do with painted rocks, place it somewhere where it can be discovered as a special surprise for someone. So a PDF with all these instructions, there's diagrams, images, and a complete materials list is available for you at dickblick.com. Lesson plans. Help yourself to a project that rocks.